Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. You are most welcome here. I've mentioned before that I sometimes play a game called Design Home, and this is a room decorating game. They have beautiful pieces for decorating with, and one piece that I was very inspired to create is called Cotton Blossoms. I think that it actually is cotton blossoms in the game, but what I want to make is some faux pussy willows. If you buy faux pussy willows, they're pretty expensive, but I think that we can make them for very cheap. Let's go have some fun.
Okay, to create the pussy willows, and we're going to create pussy willow stems that look like this, we are going to need this brown 14 gauge wire that I bought at Amazon. And you can see that you can straighten this out and it's quite stiff, so the stems will stand up using that wire. And then florist tape. I also purchased this at Amazon. This is brown florist tape. And then to make the little cottony bits, and we're going to make 8 of those, I like this 22 gauge green florist's wire. I use this for so many things. And finally, I used a white faux fur, but I think a grayish white might actually be better because that's what pussy willows really look like. They're grayish. So what I did was I cut a strip of the fur, and the pussy willows that I had already made were about 3/4 of an inch tall. I ended up cutting a strip about between 3/4 of an inch and an inch wide. And it doesn't take much. That's maybe 4 inches. And then I cut that into little squares, so I ended up with about 4 1-inch squares, and then I further cut those down. Now for the wire, you're going to be wrapping this wire around the thicker wire. So I cut pieces that were about 3 inches long, and I don't use regular scissors for that. I use little wire snips. So we're going to use hot glue to just put the wire, sandwich the wire in the faux fur. And this is a low temperature hot glue gun that I use, so it really doesn't hurt my fingers to squish this together. And after I've put it together, then I trim it a little bit more to give it more of a rounded shape so it doesn't look like a square of faux fur that I've hot glued to a piece of wire. So we're going to need 8 of those if we're going to make a faux pussy willow stem that looks like the ones that I have made. I actually made these in a few different configurations. I made some tall ones for a floor vase, and I also made some that, instead of standing up straight, sort of are more like sprays. These are the ones that I like the best. So once we've got our 8 little cottony parts, then I took the 14 gauge wire and I measured out 16 inches of that. And again, I used my little wire snips to cut that. And then we're just going to wrap the wire around, position them the way you like on the longer stem. I tend to put the smaller ones at the top, so when I make them, I don't try to be super uniform because nature isn't uniform like that. And I put them on opposite sides of the stem staggered. Now, with the floral tape, what I found was the easiest way to put this on, at least for me, was to use just a little dab of hot glue right on the cottony part of the pussy willow, and attach the florist tape there and hold it with one hand while wrapping with the other hand. So I cut short pieces and wrapped them around each of the little green pieces of wire down to the stem, and then glued them again at the bottom of the stem. And so I did that for each of those first. Once that was all done, I then wrapped down, and you can see on my originals, I didn't wrap all the way down the larger stem. I just wrapped to cover the green wire. And the same process where I used a little bit of glue to get it started, because the floral tape really just sticks to itself. It's great for wrapping like this though. And that's done. Now I was wondering, can we do this with items from the Dollar Tree? So regular masking tape and cotton balls, like you would have in the bathroom. The green florist's wire, I'm not sure if they have that at the Dollar Tree. If they don't, I would recommend chenille stems. They're made of wire. Now here I took some of the cotton out of the cotton ball. Cotton balls really are made of quite a lot of cotton. And this is a lot. For subsequent little pussy willow balls, I used a lot less, so I would say I got 6 to 8 out of one cotton ball. But pussy willows do come in different sizes. I've seen some really large ones, so it depends on what size pussy willow you want to make. And if you are doing something for a floor vase, you may wish to have larger ones. So it was pretty successful. Don't think it really looks that different from the one I made out of the faux fur. Neither of them is gray, the way real pussy willows are. Maybe you could make that up with paint. And now, so once those are done, we need to make the stem that we're going to attach them to. And I've got 2 bamboo skewers here. I've put the pointy ends together, but they overlap a bit, on top of a piece of masking tape. And then I've also added hot glue. And I really didn't think this was going to work, but I thought it was worth a try. But it actually did work. I weave it around a little bit here to demonstrate that that actually is holding together pretty well. And it's not like we're going to play baseball with this, we're just going to stick it in a vase, so I do think that's actually sufficient. So then you're just going to do the same thing we did before, which is to wrap the wires around the stick. This is a little trickier, they tend to flop around, but once we cover it with the tape, they're going to stay in place. Now what I found worked best with regular masking tape is to just rip off small pieces and put them around, like straight around. You can't wrap it down, at least not easily, not the same way you can with the florist's tape. So just a lot of little pieces of masking tape all the way down the stick. And once you've got that done, of course you want it to be brown. So this is some burnt umber brown acrylic paint that I used, and I just painted that stem all the way down. It adhered really well to the masking tape. Now I didn't like the color quite as much as the color of the tape, and so I decided, I'm sorry this is so blurry, I decided to dry brush with a little bit of black acrylic paint, and I really got quite a lot of that paint off the brush before I dry brushed it onto the stem, but I just did that all the way down the stem to give it just a little bit of depth and a little bit more of a natural color. Now, what about cotton blossoms? Can we make these? Notice that sometimes there are 5 little balls of cotton, sometimes there are 4, sometimes there are 3. but there are always leaves between each of the balls, and this is what the leaves look like. The stem itself, we could use our 14 gauge wire to simulate if we wanted to do an entire stem. So for the leaves, I thought that I would just try to use a couple of layers of shopping bag. So I sketched out a leaf shape on the shopping bag. And then I cut that out and used it as a pattern. I put 4 together with a little bit of space in the middle. And I cut 2 layers of that. And then when I held it up to my cotton balls, realized that it was much too big. So I cut all of the leaves down, and I want to say they're about 1 inch long, quite thin. I glued them together, the 2 layers, and then I glued a piece of the 22 gauge floral wire to the back with the low temperature hot glue gun, and I used another piece of the bag on top of that to hide where the wire attaches. This time I did not use my fingers to hold it down, I used a pencil. Now, I have again the blurry acrylic burnt umber and black paint, and you'll notice on the actual leaves they're pretty dark brown and they have some black flecks. They also have some color in them that is the same color or close to the same color as the original shopping bag. So I painted the outside of those brown and added a little bit of black over that once that had dried. Now for the cotton balls themselves, real cotton balls aren't quite as fluffy looking as these cotton blossoms. So what I did was I used a toothpick and just tried to pick up a little bit of the fluff around the outside of the cotton ball. The cotton ball really is much denser and a little bit larger than the cotton blossoms themselves. And 3 felt like the right amount, but unfortunately I had 4 leaves, so I needed 4 so that I could put 1 leaf between each of the cotton balls. So I just covered that with hot glue on the inside. Really a good coat. I would say don't go all the way to the very tips, because what you might want to do, what I wanted to do, was to curl those down a little bit to look as if, the blossom had opened, just like the real ones. I feel like these cotton balls are too large. Maybe if we're going to use cotton balls, we make the leaves a little bit bigger than the natural ones so they match the size of the cotton balls, or we figure out how to keep the cotton balls roughly the same shape but make them smaller, pull some of the cotton out of them. I think it's a reasonable simulation of the cotton blossoms.
So what did you think of the pussywillows? I really loved these. They were easy to make, and I feel like this is a decor piece that you can use year-round. I also liked trying to make the cotton blossoms because my Dollar Tree doesn't always have cotton blossoms, and this is something that we can also make for very inexpensive. Please tell me in the comments if this is something that you might make, or if there are other foliage that you would like to learn to make, because I'm very inspired to make any sort of foliage that is normally expensive. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.